Welcome back. Now that we have seen and heard Billy Budd by Benjamin Britten, we are able to speak with the original Billy Budd, baritone Theodor Uppman. Let's go back to that night, December 1st, 1951, Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, Benjamin Britten conducting, and you're Billy Budd. What was so particularly special about that night?
Well, first of all, the role. I think that it was a role that suited me so completely. I felt so happy in it. Ben, of course, you know, he had looked for a baritone in England and on the continent, and finally said, well, let's try the United States. And when I had left New York to go back to California after having done a musical, I wanted to stay there with my family. Alfred Drake, who had been the director of the musical, called me and said, Ted, you've got to come to New York. This is a perfect role for you. And he said, you'll regret it for the rest of your life if you don't. I said, Alfred, I can't do that. I've got a job. I'm being paid $60 a week.
And the job was?
It was superintendent of the oil and acid department at Bendix Aviation in Burbank, California. They didn't want to take me to begin with because they said, you know, we are too close to Hollywood here. You're a singer, you're an actor. You won't stay on this job. You know, you'll leave us the way they all do. And I said, no. I definitely have to have this job because I cannot take a chance anymore. And I've been away from my family for over 8 months.
And then the call came.
And then the call came. Alfred Drake said, Ted, you've got to come to New York to audition for Billy Budd. I said, what's Billy Budd? And he said, well, it's an opera that's just been written by Benjamin Britten, and it's the great, you know, Herman Melville novel. And I said, well, you know, Alfred, I don't know anything about that, but if you say it's what I should do, I suppose I should think about it.
And so you came to New York?
I came to New York, and I auditioned on a Saturday, and they called me back again on Sunday when there were 4 baritones still to be heard. We took pictures, and they made some tapes of my voice and so forth. And I went back to my job, continued working for the rest of the week. And I had a call from London saying, please get on the next plane.
And that changed your life?
That certainly changed my life, yes, it did. And they had, of course, been rehearsing there for several weeks. And I came along, well, like at the end of October. And I had really a lot to learn. That's the role. It's not easy. So that they sent me to every repetiteur they could find in London to learn it.
How were you received at Covent Garden among the other singers, the chorus?
Well, the other singers were very kind to me, and a lot of them thought, you know, that I was just great for this role. But the English equity was the problem.
The union there?
The union, yes. They decided that it was ridiculous, that there certainly must have been somebody who could sing Billy Budd in England. And they wouldn't have had to have an American there. So they held up my contract. I couldn't get paid. And Peter Pears finally came to me.
And he was Captain Veer in the first performance.
Peter Pears was the Captain Veer, that's right. He said, Ted, the equity has tried to keep you out. And he said, yesterday we took a vote, the whole cast. And he said, to a man, they voted for you. And so he said, you are all right now. But he said, this is the reason that you haven't received your pay, and so forth.
Tell us a bit about Benjamin Britten.
He was just, you know, just like a brother, an older brother to me. And it was so wonderful because he and Peter took me aside. We went to their apartment, and he said, I want to talk to you about Billy. There are certain things that I think you have to know. You know, Billy is a young man, perhaps 17, and he is someone who is rather naive. He has an inner radiance, Billy has, because of his wonderful feeling about everyone. He loves people. And when he comes on board the Indomitable, he doesn't realize for a moment that anybody wouldn't like him.
You speak, or Britten spoke, of the inner radiance of Billy Budd. Does this radiance reflect naivete, innocence? Is there denial about the world and the people around him?
No, he was so happy to be alive. He'd quite a struggle as a young man. And being on board this ship was one of the great things that he could ever possibly think of, you see.
So here is Benjamin Britten, the composer as well as conductor, during the rehearsals telling you, Ted Uppman, have this inner radiance. Now, how do you maintain that or create it during the rehearsals and sustain it through the performances?
I tried to smile a lot, you know. And I really wanted to enjoy everything that was going on with my comrades. It was not hard for me. I think I am a happy person, and it came rather naturally to me, you see, to do this.
Did Britten try to influence you in terms of the words, not the singing, but how you spoke, the accent?
Well, yes, of course, they found certain words like basket, which stood out, and they said, no, it must be basket. And then, of course, the word comrade is comrade in Britain. And there were various other little things that had to change. But I felt that my natural speech is not unlike a British speech, really, when you come right down to it. Growing up in California, and where I did in Northern California, many of us speak without an American, so-called American accent.
What was the reception like on that night, the reaction from the audience?
Oh, it was overwhelming, really. And people just cheered, you know. I had a clipping service, and these clippings came in from all over the world, and almost every one of them was a tremendous success.
The staging, the production at the Met obviously is world famous. It's a marvelous production, but what did you have at Covent Garden in 1951?
It was much simpler, and John Piper, of course, did the sets, and he was so wonderful about them. We had a whole ship stretched out across the stage. I love that feeling of the full ship, because when you have the marching in, for instance, at the end of all of the various parts of the ship, the men, the sailors, the Marines, the powder monkeys, each one can come on and be seen crossing the stage and going up. And you know what that music means at that moment. That's written for these particular parts of the ship, the company. And in the Met production, which is really remarkable, probably one of the greatest sets ever built, because it moves in layers, you know, and you get the full extent of the stern of the ship. That's wonderful, but there's no mast. You don't see the mast. And I know that Peter Pears, when he did it, said to us, he said, really, I just do miss the fact that there isn't even a mast to show that it's that kind of ship.
But there are plenty of other things going on there on stage
to
make up for it.
Yes, absolutely. It's really one of the, as I say, one of the most remarkable sets. And I don't know, Ben, of course, never saw it. Benjamin Britten never saw it, so that he couldn't make his remarks about it.
Benjamin Britten in '51 was already a well-established composer, but he wasn't quite yet a fully professional conductor, and yet he wanted to conduct and did conduct this world premiere.
Yes.
How did he work with you? How did he work with the orchestra?
He did it very, very well. I don't know that I've ever worked with a conductor that was easier and more, you know, available to the singers. He gave us cues. He knew, after all, it was his opera. He knew it backwards and forwards.
He's the creator.
That's it. You know, you're getting it right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And
you did go on to do Billy Budd in other houses?
Yes. Well, I came back to the United States and did it in 1952 on television, NBC Television Theater. And that was a great experience. I enjoyed that very much, but it had to be cut. And they asked Ben Britten if he would do the cutting. It had to be cut to 90 minutes, an hour and a half. And actually, that was the first time that the company had done more than 60 minutes of an opera. So Ben said no. He said I couldn't possibly do it. I couldn't cut it. It would be like, you know, maiming my own child. It just couldn't be done.
Your name, Billy Budd, sir. Your age, don't know, sir. Don't know. Your trade, able seaman. Can you read? No, but I can sing. Never mind the singing. This looks better. Better porter. Better man. Welcome. Sound in wind and limb. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Where's your home? Haven't any. They say I was a he stammers. That's a pity. Fine recruit otherwise. There is always some flaw in them. Always something. Oh, foundling. Aye, it comes and it goes. Or so the chaps tell me. Don't you worry. Foundling. That's the word. Foundling. I'm a foundling. Found in a basket tied to a good man's door. A poor old man. A pretty good find. That's all right, sir. Billy Budd, king of the birds. Billy Budd, king of the world. Up among the Seahawks, up against the storms. Looking down on the deck, looking down on the waves. Working aloft, my mates. Working aloft in the foretop. Working and helping. Working and sharing. Goodbye to the old life. Don't want it no more. Farewell to you, old comrades. Farewell to you forever. Farewell, right of man. Farewell, right of man. Farewell to you forever. Right man.
That was television, so that reached an enormous audience at the time.
It did. It was a wonderful audience, and we had the NBC Symphony Orchestra playing for us.
Where else was the opera performed?
Then I did it in 1970, when I was 50 years old. I performed it in Chicago, the Chicago Lyric, and we had somewhat the same set that was used in Covent Garden. It was the first professional performance of Billy Budd in this country.
Here was Billy Budd, established on the opera stage in London.
Mm-hmm.
It was performed in Chicago. It was even on television in this shortened version. Mm-hmm. What about the Met?
Well,
well,
yes, when I came to the Met in 1953, so many people came up to me and said, oh, here you are, they're the Billy Budd. They should do Billy Budd here at the Met. And I said, well, I think so too. It's a marvelous opera. And they ought to take advantage of the fact that they've gotten Billy here. So I went to Mr. Bing and I said, Mr. Bing, you know, so many people are wondering why we don't do Billy Budd here in the theater. I mean, you've got me, I'm the Billy. And he said, well, Ted, you know, we only do masterpieces in this theater.